The Grand Canyon is a massive area with a small portion having a piece of fascinating information to be explored. This enormous space holds secrets, even though it looks dry and empty. The secrets that come across here are plenty of interesting facts about the creatures and the people of the past, the starting of which is as follows. Number 20. Thunderbird. If you're into pop fiction, perhaps you already saw the Thunderbird featured in a mainstream movie. However, the Thunderbird is more than just a mythical creature. The Thunderbird is often depicted as a colossal bird capable of creating thunder with the flapping of its wings and lightning with a blink of its eyes. Various tribes, including the Ojibwe, Menominee, and Sioux, hold rich traditions surrounding this creature. According to the Ojibwe, Thunderbirds were created by the trickster god Nanabozo to combat malevolent underwater spirits and enforce moral conduct among humans. However, in other cultures, the Thunderbird is a guardian spirit symbolizing power, protection, and balance. It's believed to migrate south in the fall, marking the seasonal change and symbolizing the triumph of good over evil. The Menominee, on the other hand, see the Thunderbird as a divine protector that controls rain and hail, ensuring the fertility and prosperity of their people. Their legends often depict the Thunderbird in a cosmic battle against the great horned snakes, representing the eternal struggle between good and evil. Number 19. A cursed blanket. In the spring of 1879, Don McGuire, a trader who had previously worked for the explorer John Wesley Powell, crossed the Colorado River at Lee's Ferry on his return to Utah. Lee's Ferry was managed by Emma at the time. Emma had a tumultuous past. She took over the ferry operations after her first husband, John D. Lee, perished for his role in a grim incident at the Mountain Meadows. When Emma met McGuire, she asked for some of his goods in exchange. She offered him a beautiful Navajo blanket, which McGuire wrote in his journal as, and I quote, "No one could see it and not desire it." Now, it wasn't until after completing the deal that the widow told McGuire about the blanket's dark history. The widow claimed that as soon as her husband got the blanket, his luck turned sour, leading to a string of misfortunes. Despite the possibility of the blanket being cursed, McGuire still brought it with him. He claimed that after acquiring the blanket, McGuire's luck worsened. He faced 100 calamities, unquote, that only ceased when he lost the blanket 2 years later. "Never," he wrote, "will I get over the woes brought upon me by that piece of the most beautiful work of human skill. So, if I were you, I'd be careful with things that I would accept." Number 18. Hopi God. With the Grand Canyon's long history, it's natural that it's home to many myths and legends. One well-known myth is that of Hopi mythology. You see, there were stories that claim the Grand Canyon is home to a Hopi god. Not only that, but according to Hopi mythology, the arid expanse is also where a portal between the spiritual and physical realms is located. The Hopi believe that their ancestors emerged into this current world from the Sipapu, which is said to be located in the Grand Canyon area. Legend has it that the Grand Canyon is also home to spirits and supernatural beings. Among these is the belief that some areas are haunted by the spirits of the past. The Hopi, with their rich spiritual traditions, regard the canyon as a place where the veil between the worlds is thin, allowing for encounters with the divine and their ancestral spirits. One particularly eerie story involves the sounds of drumming and chanting heard echoing through the canyon at night. Some say these are rituals of ancient Hopi spirits still performing their ceremonies. The story also goes that there are ghostly apparitions of Hopi elders who appear to those who venture too close to sacred sites without proper respect. Even today, the Grand Canyon remains a place of pilgrimage for the Hopi people. They continue to perform rituals and ceremonies there, maintaining a spiritual connection that has endured for centuries. Number 17.
El Tovar Hotel.
Opened in 1905, the El Tovar Hotel is a historic structure perched on the south rim of the Grand Canyon. With its prime location, this hotel offered stunning views and luxurious accommodations. El Tovar was the brainchild of the Santa Fe Railroad and was operated by Fred Harvey. They aimed for the hotel to be a great getaway for those who wanted to enjoy the Grand Canyon without foregoing comfort. Designed to resemble a Swiss chalet, it has hosted many notable guests, including President Theodore Roosevelt and even renowned scientist Albert Einstein. Today, however, El Tovar Hotel is famous not only for its long history but because of ghosts. Several have traveled to the hotel just to experience the alleged hauntings in the area. The most infamous story involves Fred Harvey himself, who is said to appear around the hotel's vicinity during the Christmas season, not to spook people but to join the holiday festivities. While this ghost story seems to be wholesome, other guests also claim that they've seen a black-capped figure walking along the pathway near a marked grave in the parking lot. This grave belongs to a former Harvey girl, an employee of Fred Harvey. Another hotspot for ghostly activity is the third floor and the kitchen area. People have reported mysterious lights, sudden temperature changes, and even the feeling of an unseen presence in their rooms. Despite, or perhaps because of its haunted reputation, the El Tovar Hotel remains a popular destination for tourists. So, if you guys have stayed in this hotel before, feel free to share your experience in the comments down below. Number 16. Ancient Egyptian Hoax. In 1909, the Arizona Gazette published an article claiming that a Smithsonian-funded expedition led by G. Kincaid and Professor S.A. Jordan had discovered an extensive network of caves in the Grand Canyon filled with Egyptian relics. The story describes statues, copper tools, and even mummified remains, suggesting that a lost Egyptian colony had once thrived in the heart of America. Sounds impossible, doesn't it? However, this sensational article quickly gained the public's attention, and it didn't take long for it to spread. Now, it wasn't until later that it was clarified that the Smithsonian Institution had no records of either Kincaid or Jordan, and no such artifacts had ever been catalogued. Furthermore, the logistics of transporting these artifacts into the remote and nearly inaccessible caves of the Grand Canyon without modern equipment would have been nearly impossible. So why did this hoax gain so much traction? The early 20th century was ripe with sensationalist journalism, often referred to as yellow journalism. Newspapers frequently published exaggerated or fabricated stories to boost sales and captivate readers. This particular story was likely a product of this trend, combined with people's curiosity over what lurks in the vast expanse of the Grand Canyon. Despite being debunked, the legend of the Grand Canyon's Egyptian artifacts has persisted, fueled by conspiracy theorists and alternate history enthusiasts. Some even claimed that the Smithsonian covered up the discovery to protect established historical narratives, while others proposed even wilder theories involving hidden dimensions and ancient astronauts. Number 15. Lack of dinosaur fossils. Now, here's one interesting discovery in the Grand Canyon: dinosaur fossils, or rather the lack thereof. Most people have the misconception that several dinosaur fossils have been discovered in the arid expanse of the national park, but there has never been a time when a dinosaur fossil was found in the Grand Canyon. But what exactly is the reason? Considering the Grand Canyon has a long history, it's safe to assume that there would be dinosaur remains on its expanse. And yet, for some weird reason, there aren't any. However, the Grand Canyon's age is the same reason why there's a lack of dino fossils on its lands. You see, the Grand Canyon contains rock layers that formed nearly 2 billion years ago. However, dinosaurs roamed the Earth during the Mesozoic era, which lasted from about 252 to 66 million years ago. This means that the Grand Canyon's rock layers predate the age of the dinosaurs from the Paleozoic era and are even older, during the Precambrian period. The youngest rocks at the top of the canyon are still older than the oldest dinosaurs. With that being said, there's no chance that a dinosaur fossil would be embedded in its rocks. Over millions of years, erosional forces have continuously scoured away layers of rock that might have contained dinosaur fossils. This process has exposed the older layers we see today but also erased any traces of the Mesozoic era. This significant erosional gap, known as an unconformity, means the layers that could have held dinosaur bones are simply missing. While there are no dinosaur fossils in the Grand Canyon, plenty of other fossils have been discovered in its expanse, from trilobites, crinoids, and other marine creatures dating back millions to billions of years ago, when the arid expanse was still covered by ancient seas. Number 14. California Condor. The California condor is the largest North American land bird. With its enormous wingspan and distinct head, it's easy to identify a condor flying across the sky. However, in the 1980s, their numbers slowly began dwindling until only 27 individuals were left, and by 1987, all remaining wild condors were captured to try and save these creatures. They were reintroduced to the great expanse of northern Arizona and southern Utah in 1996. The first group of captive-bred condors was reintroduced to the wild near the Grand Canyon. This historic release allowed condors to fly freely over Arizona skies for the first time in decades. By 2001, the first wild nesting of condors in the Grand Canyon was recorded, and they've been free beneath the blue skies of the arid expanse ever since. The Grand Canyon's vast, rugged terrain provides an ideal habitat for the California condor. Its cliffs and caves offer perfect nesting sites, while the abundant food supply from the carcasses of large mammals supports their scavenging lifestyle. The relative remoteness of the area also helps reduce the risk of these birds being threatened by human activity. For the second time around, on December 31, 2022, over 2 decades since the first captive-bred condors were released, the National Park Service gave a total world population of 561. From a mere 2-digit number to hundreds more, although still considered critically endangered, the California condor is slowly regaining traction. Hopefully, in the future, their numbers will soar until we're confident that they'll remain for centuries to come. Number 13. Vishnu Schist. Now, this isn't necessarily strange considering the history of the Grand Canyon, but the presence of Vishnu Schist is still something notable in the Grand Canyon. These rocks are some of the oldest on Earth, dating back to the Proterozoic Eon. These rocks, dating about 1.75 billion years ago, make up the base of the Grand Canyon. Vishnu Schist started as sedimentary and igneous rocks on the ocean floor. Through intense heat and pressure, these rocks were transformed, metamorphosed, into schist. These rocks are significant because of their age. By studying this layer, we learn more about the ancient environment of the Grand Canyon and how the Earth moved long before life even came to be on Earth. Number 12. Uranium. Uranium was the last thing people expected to find in the Grand Canyon. That is, until the early 20th century when high-quality uranium deposits were found in the canyon, making it a hot spot for mining activities, most especially during the height of the Cold War, a time when the demand for nuclear energy and weapons surged. Companies like Energy Fuels have been involved in extracting uranium from these rich deposits, promising to return the land to its natural state post-mining. And yet this never happened. Indigenous communities and the environment were the ones who took the brunt of the situation. One of the most pressing issues with uranium mining is its potential impact on the environment and human health. The complex water systems in the Grand Canyon could be contaminated by the mining process, leading to radioactive pollution of drinking water and natural springs. And as of May 2022, there were still nearly 600 mining claims on national forests and other supposed public areas around the Grand Canyon. Number 11. Casa Grande Ruins National Monument. The Casa Grande Ruins National Monument is located near the Gila River and is known as one of North America's largest prehistoric structures. However, to this day, it's still shrouded in mystery. Casa Grande, which means Great House in Spanish, was aptly named by the explorer Padre Eusebio Francisco Kino when he stumbled upon it in 1694. Built around 1350 CE, this four-story adobe structure stands tall amid the desert landscape, showcasing the architectural prowess of its builders. The purpose of Casa Grande remains a puzzle. Was it an astronomical observatory, a ceremonial site, or a central hub for the community? Archaeologists have yet to agree on a definitive answer. The ancestral Sobe-Puri desert people were master engineers, creating an extensive network of irrigation canals to transform the arid desert into fertile farmland. This ingenuity supported a thriving community engaged in agriculture, crafting, and trade. However, by 1450 CE, the Casa Grande was abandoned, its creators having left behind no written records. The first written accounts of the ruins came from European explorers like Kino, who marveled at the massive structure. The 19th century saw increased interest and, unfortunately, significant damage from treasure hunters and vandals. This prompted preservation efforts, and in 1892, Casa Grande ruins became the United States' first archaeological reserve thanks to President Benjamin Harrison's designation. It was later declared a national monument in 1918 by President Woodrow Wilson. Number 10. U.S. Post delivered by mule. Now, here's something unexpected. Did you know that people can still receive mail in the Grand Canyon? But instead of a white van delivering mail, a four-legged animal does it instead? Nestled deep within the Grand Canyon is the Supai village, which was once home to the Havasupai people. It's to this place that a mule train laden with items travels. Supai village is one of the most isolated communities in the United States, accessible only by a strenuous hike, a helicopter ride, or most reliably by mule. This unique method of delivery has been a lifeline for the Havasupai people for decades. Located 8 miles from the nearest road, the village's remote location means that regular postal services simply aren't feasible. Instead, the U.S. Postal Service employs mule trains to carry mail down into the canyon each day. Mail carriers drive 70 miles from the Peach Springs post office to the canyon rim. From there, the journey continues on muleback for another 3 hours into the canyon. Each mule can carry up to 200 pounds of mail, which includes not just letters and packages but also crucial supplies like food. Now, this isn't an easy journey. Mules and their handlers face a challenging route every day, with the trek down taking about 3 hours and the return trip taking about 5 hours because of the steep climb. Well, you certainly can't ask for express delivery if you live in such an isolated village. Number 9. Supai Village. Nestled in Coconino County, Arizona, within the Grand Canyon, is Supai, yes, the same village where the mule delivery goes. In the 2010 census, there were still 208 people living in the small village. In 2020, the census incorrectly reported the village's population as 0 due to, and I quote, uncertain reasons. However, the Associated Press reported that there are actually about 500 people living in the Supai village today. Now, despite being incredibly isolated, Supai actually has a school, a cafe, an air-conditioned lodge, a convenience store, and of course, the post office where the delivery mules pick up and drop off packages. Number 8. The Cave of the Domes. If you visited the Grand Canyon National Park before, perhaps you've seen or even entered the Cave of the Domes, the only cave open to the public in the park, although it has been closed on and off to protect sensitive resources and roosting bats in the area. Although offered for the pleasure of visitors today, historically, the Cave of the Domes has served various purposes. Native Americans utilized the cave, and remnants of their occupation, including pottery shards and tools, have been found inside. The cave also has a history of mining back in the early 1900s. The cave is relatively easy to explore, however, there are still several tight spots in the cavern. Inside, however, travelers are welcomed by stunning stalactites and stalagmites formed over thousands of years by mineral-rich water dripping through the cave ceilings and floors. Number 7. Mogollon Monster. The Mogollon Monster is said to be a towering figure standing around 7 feet tall, covered in dark, matted hair similar to Bigfoot or Sasquatch. Its hair turns gray with age, and its face, hands, chest, and feet are hairless, revealing dark skin. The creature's eyes, often described as deep-set and fiery red, peer out from beneath a pronounced brow. Reports suggest it has enormous feet, leaving tracks as long as 22 inches, and emits an unforgettable stench, a mix of dead fish, skunk, and rotting meat. Yikes! So far, most reports about the Mogollon Monster were reported along the Mogollon Rim, a 200-mile-long escarpment that divides Arizona. One of the most notable encounters was reported by a member of the White Mountain Apache Nation, Ket Alaha. She described seeing the creature taking long strides along a road. She claimed that the creature had thick, black fur and an unmistakable build. Another story was shared by Don Davis. He claimed that back when he was still 13 years old, he was camping near Tonto Creek when something woke him and some other boys in the middle of the night. He shared that it sounded like something, or rather someone, was rummaging around their things. Davis, thinking it was one of his friends fooling around, yelled to stop the noises. Suddenly, all the movements halted, and when he opened his eyes, he saw a terrifying creature standing above him, looking down on him in his sleeping bag. This terrifying creature had black fur around its body, except for its face. All Davis could do was cover his face and hide in his sleeping bag, hoping that the monster would go away. He shared that he fell back asleep, terrified. Luckily, the next morning, he found no traces of the said creature except for the scattered things that had been rummaged through the night before. There were also stories of people hearing terrifying shrieks, howls, and even what seems like a human in distress. These sounds, combined with the occasional sightings of glowing eyes in the darkness, have left a terrifying impression on people. However, despite the numerous sightings, solid evidence about the Mogollon Monster's existence remains elusive. Number 6. Petroglyphs. Petroglyphs are ancient carvings left on rocks. Now, there might not be dinosaur fossils within the Grand Canyon, but there are a lot of petroglyphs in the national park. These incredible artworks offer a glimpse into the lives, beliefs, and cultures of the ancestors of modern Native American tribes. One prominent site is along the South Rim's Bright Angel Trail. Here, you'll find deer petroglyphs painted in red pigment, remnants of ancient occupants marking their path into the canyon. These artworks date from 4,000 years ago to as recent as 1950. If you think that's still pretty recent, let me remind you that 1950 is 74 years ago. With the Grand Canyon being a sacred place of many Native American tribes, from the Supai, Hopi, Navajo, and others, these petroglyphs are expectedly laden with history. Preserving these ancient artworks is a top priority for park authorities and Native American communities. Visitors are encouraged to view petroglyphs from a distance to prevent damage and ensure that these cultural treasures remain for future generations to study and admire. Now it's time for today's topic. Here is a Grand Canyon discovery that terrifies the whole world. The Grand Canyon covers more than 1 million acres of land and is home to thousands of species of birds, mammals, reptiles, amphibians, insects, as well as fish. With how wide the expanse is, many seem to think that the Grand Canyon is nothing but barren land. And yet, from time to time, explorers often claimed that they encountered something bizarre while in the canyons, a creature they had never seen before, and one whose existence they could not explain. For instance, this photo was captured by an explorer who saw a bizarre creature while walking in the Grand Canyon at night. He saw the creature in the distance, but even from afar, he knew that what he encountered was a creature he had never seen before. He shared that he captured the photo by zooming in on his phone camera. He couldn't get a clearer image of the creature, but even with its shape alone, it looked like a creature people had never seen before, with 2 pointed ears, short limbs, and a long tail. What could this creature be? Any guesses? Let me know in the comments down below. Number 5. Sloth dung. Nestled in the western part of the Grand Canyon, Rampart Cave is a treasure trove for paleontologists. A cave filled with dung, more particularly sloth dung. Discovered in 1936, this cave holds an extraordinary collection of Pleistocene-era remains, including bones, skin, hair, and again, most notably, dung from the extinct Shasta ground sloth. This giant herbivore, which roamed the North American landscape over 10,000 years ago, left behind dung deposits up to 20 feet deep in some places. And now, researchers get to study them. Think about a creature the size of a modern grizzly bear but entirely herbivorous, munching on a diet of desert plants like cacti, yucca, and Mormon tea. The Shasta ground sloth was roughly 9 feet long and weighed over 500 pounds. Its dung, remarkably well preserved, provides critical insights into the flora of the ancient Grand Canyon ecosystem. These sloths inhabited the area during 2 distinct periods, between 40,000 and 24,000 years ago, and between 13,000 and 11,000 years ago. Well, the story of the haunted Navajo blanket will definitely haunt me for a long time, but perhaps you have more interesting tales about the Grand Canyon. If so, feel free to share them in the comments down below. Also, check out our other cool stuff showing up on the screen right now, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, everybody. Number 4. Skinwalkers. Skinwalkers, rooted in Navajo culture, are said to be malevolent witches capable of transforming into animals. These shapeshifters, according to legend, can take the form of wolves, coyotes, owls, or even humans. Their terrifying reputation is intertwined with the Grand Canyon's eerie atmosphere, especially in the vast, isolated areas where the dark can seem endless. The Navajo believe that skinwalkers gain their powers by committing unspeakable acts, often involving close family members. This dark magic grants them the ability to wear the skins of animals and mimic their movements and sounds. The concept of skinwalkers is deeply embedded in Navajo traditions, with stories passed down through generations warning of their presence and the dangers they pose. There are numerous accounts from people claiming to have encountered these shape-shifting entities. One chilling tale involves a family living near the Grand Canyon who reported seeing a creature with the body of a large dog but human-like hands and feet. As they watched in horror, the creature stood on its hind legs and ran away, disappearing into the night. Whether you believe in skinwalkers or not, perhaps it's wise to keep your eyes peeled for any suspicious-looking animals in the canyon's expanse. Number 3. Split twig figurines. This figure might not look like anything notable, but it's among the few artifacts discovered in the Grand Canyon. The first of these split twig figurines was discovered in the Grand Canyon in 1933. Primarily made from willow twigs, meticulously split down the middle and then folded into the shape of animals like deer and bighorn sheep, hundreds of these figurines have been unearthed predominantly in remote, uninhabited caves all over the expanse of the Grand Canyon. Thanks to the arid conditions of the Grand Canyon caves, many of these fragile artifacts have survived millennia. Now, we're quite unsure as to what significance they had. Were they toys, forms of art, ceremonial objects, or something else? For archaeologists who have seen them, these split twig figurines most likely served as totems or talismans associated with the desert culture, the ancestors of the Anasazi people. Due to the fact that they were placed in caves that were almost impossible to reach, it's likely that they played a role in rituals related to hunting and spiritual practices. Some experts suggest they were used to invoke favor from animal spirits, ensuring a bountiful hunt. However, to this day, the exact purpose and significance of these split twig figurines remain up to theories and speculation. Number 2. Ancient doorway. Google Earth has led researchers to previously unexplored areas, resulting in the discovery of new species or unexpected archaeological finds. Recently, Google Earth led to the discovery of an ancient doorway in the Grand Canyon, or at least that's what many people believe it is. It all began when eagle-eyed Wayne Wells came across an unexpected hole while browsing Google Earth. He zoomed out of the area and realized that the mysterious feature was actually located in the Grand Canyon in Arizona. Conspiracy theorists are quick to weave stories about the hole being created by aliens. There are also theories about the hole being a secret base or an undercover government facility, but as usual, researchers are also quick to dismiss these claims. Experts believe that the said hole is nothing but a natural geological feature, but to this day, there are still those who believe that the cave is a doorway to something unexpected. Number 1. Glenn and Bessie Hyde. On December 9, 1898, Glenn Brolin Hyde was born, and he grew up to be a farmer in Twin Falls, Idaho. In the same month, years later, Bessie Louise Haley was born in West Virginia. Decades later, both Glenn and Bessie would have their fates intertwined after meeting on a passenger ship traveling to Los Angeles on April 10, 1928. The two married each other. That year was filled with bliss. Glenn, having some experience with river running, suggested a trip to the Grand Canyon. It was supposed to be an unforgettable adventure for the two, and unforgettable it was, just not in the way they both expected. Glenn and Bessie set off on October 20th, 1928, in a homemade wooden boat called a sweep scow, without life jackets. They planned to cover over 600 miles of treacherous water in the Grand Canyon. They initially made good progress and were even spotted several times along the way. The couple even met famous photographer and boatman Emery Kolb in mid-November. However, one important detail that surfaced later is that, according to Emery, Bessie seemed like she was ready to quit, but Glenn urged them to continue. By early December, concern grew as no one had heard from the Hydes. Kolb initiated a search, and a plane eventually spotted their boat snagged on rocks in the river. When the search party reached the boat on December 24th, they found it intact with all the supplies neatly packed, including Bessie's journal and their camera, which contained photos up to November 27th. And yet, no matter how far they searched, they found no signs of Glenn or Bessie. To this day, it's unclear what happened to the couple.